Hello, welcome to the Whitey White Guy Show. I'm Whitey, and today I'm going to review the film Under Heavy Fire that came out in 2001. Oops, I hit the button for the 360. What to say about this one? Under Heavy Fire it's about a group of Vietnam veterans who are going back to Vietnam, and then a reporter and her crew member are tagging along with them. Plus, one of the sons of one of the soldiers from the unit got killed. So it follows Echo Company of a Marine Corps rifle company. That the story kind of centers around the fighting that took place during the Tet Offensive and the fighting in Hue, the city of Hue. And then the whole film, it's 5 dudes plus their company commander. They go back to Vietnam, and they kind of like retrace their steps of what took place in 1968 during the fighting at different times. And so it's directed by Sidney J. Furie, F-U-I-R-E, Furie, I don't know, Furie, something, who's done some stuff before. Apparently he's pretty good, I can tell you. The film, for the most part, looks okay. It's a little frustrating for me because you see these guys just not holding their rifles right at times, and I'm like, okay, that's the way they held that during that era, or is the actor just doing a shit job with his rifle? Some of that guys get it right. Kenny Johnson is in this who's been in The Shield, been a bunch of stuff, big, tall, blonde guy. He looks pretty good in this. Not only being a taller, muscular dude, but also how he wore his gear, how he carried himself. It was just like everything in this film is very hit and miss. So some of the actors are doing a really good job. Martin Cove of Karate Kid fame, he plays Reese. John Reese, the bad guy in that movie, is actually not playing a villain. I know! What? He plays a padre, a priest for the Marine Corps, who's in the field with the grunts, which makes less than no sense. And there's a lot of that. Like, okay, and so the rationale they give is that they're short-handed, or so there's been a lot of casualties, or something. It's kind of like let me come right back to that. So Casper Van Dien of Starship Troopers fame, everybody's favorite, what the fuck am I looking at movie ever, who's been in a whole bunch of stuff. He plays the brand new company commander. He's the captain who's taken over after the last guy got killed. And by God, does he look the part. Throughout the whole film, he looks fantastic. He is a sexy man. But he's doing this. He's like, I was there, man. I saw when it went down. I can't do that voice. So actually, as I try to do the thing he was doing, it's like, way to go. You did that for weeks of filming, and that fucked me after 10 seconds. But he's like, I was in the Nam. And it's just like, no one talks like this. Nobody talks like this. And there's a lot of that. So there's a black guy who plays the tough, grizzled sergeant. He's like, da, 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 da. And it's like, why? Nobody talks like that. I was never in the military. I should have gone. I fucked my life up real good. I want to meet that guy. Whether it's a cop or a soldier or somebody in a fire department, I want to meet that guy. Where you're like, hey, Sarge, how's your day going? He's like, yeah. Oh, God, that messes with your throat. Nobody talks like this. But he looks fantastic with all the gear and everything, and he does a good job otherwise. So he comes over to Martin Cove right towards the beginning of the film. They're in the Nam, during the war. And he's like, I didn't know we had priests in the field. And he's like, well, there's been a lot of casualties. And it's like, okay, why do they always do this? Why do they always pull people out of their MOS and put them in a job that they're not trained to do? It's like, why? And then, of course, Martin Cove, he like, hand grenade landings near him, and he throws the grenade, and he's like, eh. And then you cut over to 50 yards away, and it blows some dudes up, and you're like, is that the movie I'm watching? So yeah, this film, it's incredibly hit and miss. So some of the combat sequences in the way actually look pretty damn good. I wasn't there to see it, but from books I've read, footage, hey, that looked a lot like Way. How to say this guy's name? Jaimz Wolvet, who, if you ever seen the movie Unforgiven, there's Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman, and the third guy. He's the third guy. He's in this, and he does a good job. The movie suffers from a lot of over the topery, and when the actors are being normal people, they do a really good job with it. But when the director's like, yeah, that be more over the top, blow this way the fuck out of proportion, then it's like, oh my god. So again, they by and large, like, omitting the over topery, the acting is pretty good. The cast is pretty good. Most of these guys you've never heard of in your life. There's one guy who plays Gunny. See if I can find him in here. He did a good job. I thought he was one of the few characters who was believable all the way through. Did a good job with his performance. That is not him. So anyway, I can't find the whole cast on here. But the guy who played the platoon medic, I thought he did a good job throughout. Doc, he was good in this. But it. So again, you start out. It's Way took place in '68, and this is 25 years later. So it had to be early '90s. This is supposed to be the early '90s. It's from '68 to early '90s, and nothing like the different elements of the fighting the war, like wherever the technical advisors were involved. Some of that sold and looked good, and the performances were good. When it wasn't the case, it was shit. It got pretty shit pretty fast. They did not sell. They made no attempt whatsoever to make this look like the early '90s in Vietnam. Film came out in 2001. It looked like 2001. Clothes they wore, hairstyles, all that stuff. They're like, don't even fucking no. Just don't even. Just wear what you're wearing when you came to work today. Like, we're not doing shit for continuity. Nobody's gonna go around and put these people like in. So, 68. It had to be like 93. This is supposed to be happening, and it not at all. You want to know what non-vets look like in that period of time? Go watch In Country with Bruce Willis. That's what these guys look like. That film got it right. This is embarrassing. It was just like, no, dude, this is so clearly 2000 something. This is not 1993. And so the stuff that took place in 1968 in Hue City in Vietnam, some of that sold, and this movie had some good moments. But it was the classic case of we need to pile on as much drama as we can. So the platoon medic apparently is MIA. He goes missing. You don't really see what happens to him. Unless I missed, because I was skipping around. It's like, oh, this is such a hot turd. I couldn't watch it all. And then, let's see what else happens here. So the platoon medic goes missing. Martin Cove, who's playing a priest, he's trying to pull all these civilians aside. And then this VC soldier who's been like giving these guys fits for the last 20 minutes goes running through and hesitates for just a second, sees him in there in his military outfit, And Martin Coe goes, "These are innocents." And then the guy blasts him away. It's like, why were you there? It's the tech fracking offensive. What are you doing there? Like, go back to the rear and bake a cake. Like, what are you doing? Why would you be there? Why would they have you? Who signed off on that one? Of course you got killed. You don't have a firearm. Oh my god. And what were you trying to do? Oh, it was so stupid. And it just kept happening. And then at one point, dude gets the Sarge, or the black sergeant, gets captured. He's taken into the tunnels. They go in to get him. And then all hell's breaking loose on the surface. They're being hit with mortar attacks. They get to the people firing the mortars at them. They take him out. And it's women. And the guy's like, oh my god, what are we doing here? This is not what I signed up for. And it's like, bro, they just killed some of your guys. And they're combatants. You are 100% in the right. Doesn't matter if they were born with a giant. And you did you just get in the country? Are you a fucking cherry? You FNG motherfucker? Are you serious right now? And this isn't 62. Or when did we even first insert in? Like, the war had been going on for some time. We got involved in the 50s. The very twilight last minute 50s. I think we sent him some Green Berets in like 58, 59. Kennedy put us in what, 60, 61? Had to be 61 because he would have taken office. January 2061. With the advisor program. So this is 68. We've been there for over half a decade. And it is the first time you're seeing female combatants. No, you're not. No, you're not. That is not news to you. And don't try to sell me that it is. And then the bad guy he's like, she just killed the priest. He's trying to arm a hand grenade. He gets mixed in with the crowd as everybody's trying to escape. And they open up and just whack 20 people. And I'm just like, I'm buying none of this. Buying none of this. Like, it's all just one horrifying catastrophe after the next. And then there's a scene where they call in, an arc light got called in, which is B-52 bombers. And Casper Van Dien is saying it in current year of what had to be again 1993 when he's like talking to the report. He's like, the concussion from the blast crushes his organs. There's no oxygen to breathe. So you have all these invaded soldiers who are still sitting there eating they were eating their chow. They're covered in soot from the explosions, and it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not, because the first time the first bomb that hit the ground, you would like try to escape. You wouldn't be sitting there holding your meal, and they were dead because the explosion sucked out the oxygen, crushed their lungs, and so they died holding their pan full of fish heads. No, you didn't. Like, I'm gonna have to hear it from the guy who was there, who saw it. And this is clearly a case of a guy who heard from a guy who heard from a guy, because that makes no sense at all. That makes no sense. So it's got to be like something like Vietnam War lore, because the dude apparently is a veteran, theoretically, the director, and it's like, it has to be. It just, okay, it has that feel of, he heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy who was there, who heard it from a guy, and then just stacked up all this shit. So in Wikipedia, they're a rifle platoon, but then at one point they're on recon, doing reconnaissance in the reconnaissance clobber and all this stuff, and it's just like, what's your MOS? Like, what do you guys do? So, and then when they're in Way City, they're fighting at the Citadel. He's like, Gunny's down on the west side of the Citadel. It's like, oh, are you guys just like everywhere? So, is there a crack Echo Company unit that was just at all the key points in the history of the war in Vietnam? Or is this just some shitty fucking writing? And it smells like shitty fucking writing. Then, but it could have happened. Maybe there was an Echo company that does this and this and this. They're also in recon. But the very end of the film is like the fart that knocked the building over. And so everything is leading up to something. You know, something happened, something bad, but nobody will say what it was. Nobody will just tell the reporter, yeah, that dude fucked up. So what happened is, afterway, the unit's really fractured. The captain watched his guys gun down some civilians. They weren't necessarily trying to. They were trying to kill the bad guy, but as he mixed in with the civilians, the civilians got killed as well. And so at the end, there's like, he at one point, there's a scene where he's trying to, I don't know, resign or something. And it's just like, no. So there's division amongst the men. So in the last sequence of events that happens, last event that happens, they're along a roadside. You got a rice paddy here, and then Casper Van Dien is like, we're going that way. And then Kenny Johnson is like, you're walking into an ambush. We're cutting across the paddy here, even though he's a corporal telling that to a captain, and corporals don't tell captains. So a squad of guys are like, F you to the captain, Casper Van Dien, we're going this way instead of you guys going that way. And it's just like, no, you wouldn't. You just wouldn't. Nope. Smelling some bullshit. So as they're cutting across the paddy, the helicopter pilot in the Huey is like, hey, you guys are walking into an ambush. I can see VC. And they were using VC and NVA synonymously. It's just like they're two different things. They're two different things. And you would know the difference. This is so bad. So the captain decides to call in an airstrike to take out the bad guys before his guys get into range of RPGs and all that kind of stuff. And so the RTO, radio telephone operator, is like, I can't get shit. He takes off his RTO, he's calling it in. And then the Arvin dude they had a beef with 5 minutes earlier stumbles across a weapons cache, goes to pull something, blam, the whole thing explodes. They're like, oh snap. And this rattles the RTO. Then the enemy starts shooting. So all chaos from all directions all the time. And the RTO, instead of putting in... So Casper Van Dien says, call it in on 0910. And this guy goes 09er and then walks away to go do something else. And he goes 09er 0901. So he puts in the wrong coordinates. Heard of it before. I'm sure it's happened. And ends up blowing up a bunch of his own guys. But he doesn't remember. He goes around saying he called in an airstrike on his own guys. And it's like, or not an airstrike, an artillery barrage. He called in an artillery barrage on his own guys. So appearances are Captain Van Dien, Casper Van Dien, was so upset that these guys basically deserted that he called in an airstrike on his own guys. And everybody forgets that they were taking fire from the tree line over here. And I'm just watching this call. And then everybody makes every conceivable mistake. And it's like, okay, I'm sure this kind of shit happened. But like every Hollywood movie, it didn't happen on the same day. It's just like Memphis Belle and everything else. If you did 2 combat tours, you would collect this many stories. Not in a week. And there's no, with the exception of Way, they give you that date. There's no really specific timeline. But it's like, that's the impression you get. This happened over the course of several days. And maybe they spelled it out and I was skipping around because I was like, this is so much bullshit. Oh my God. But it's a very hit and miss film that I could have been in there for. I could have hung tight and supported this film. But then they get to the end and everybody's having flashbacks. So it's not like one guy had a flashback. They all did it simultaneously. And I'm like, no. No, you wouldn't. No, you didn't. No. This is too stupid. So, that's what happened in 68. The RTO fucked up the coordinates and blew up a bunch of his own guys, but then ran around saying it was the captain's decision, but not intentionally. He was so that explosion shook him so much in the shit. Oh my god, it's crazy. He didn't remember that he did it wrong. So now that they're out in the exact same spot, 25 years later, this comes back to him. He realizes he fucked up. But then the other guy, two other guys, pull out pistols and start charging after the captain to shoot him. But then the black sergeant realizes, wait, I screwed up too. So he jumps in from, and he gets shot twice. And you're just like, are we doing this? Are we doing this? This is so bad. Oh my god. So they manage to save the guy. They go to the hospital, and the Vietnamese lady's like, your efforts to resuscitate the black guy was not in vain. There was no brain damage. He will survive. And then the next day, he's fine. Just in time to catch the plane to go home. It's not months later. Like he took two. The dude was right there. He had a 45. He goes, pop, pop. They got me. 6 weeks to retirement. And then the next day he's okay. Put some ice on it, champ. You'll be all right. No big deal. Oh, it was so awful. And then I'm going to get moving on after this one, but it's supposed to be 25 years later, and with the exception of a little bit of gray hair here and a little gray hair there, they look exactly the same. And it's just like, oh my god. Oh, they didn't age at all in 25 years. It's just fantastic. And Kenny Johnson, who gives a good performance, doesn't in the latter, again, it's supposed to be like early 90s, and he looks like he walked on the set wearing what he was wearing in 2000 when they shot it. Did the filmmakers not know there was a difference? A pretty significant difference from the very early 90s to 2000 and how people looked. And at one point, the lady had a laptop, and I'm like, that is not an early 90s laptop, lady. Where'd you even get that? It doesn't exist for another decade. What the fuck? So, yeah. Under Heavy Fire, if you watch this movie, bring some lube or something, because it's jerking off. There are a few good performances, there's a few good moments, but it's just blotted out by the pure bullshit, over the top sentimentality, just nonsense. So that's it for the White Guy Show. Pretty much skip this film unless you want a reason to shove something up your butthole to stop the pain. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers.